victory and the agony of defeat.
Madison, great ball around the corner, Petticini, he beats them all! Junior Polar out wide, bumped away from Trindle, Sharks coming through, none of them can hold this!
Ooh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a spicy one today. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tip Sheet Podcast. Hello to everyone in chat, having a good yak to Phil, to Jetta, to Neil, to Ozzy. I know that, who else was there? There was Paul at the start there as well, Jamie, Michael, Scott. Good pleasure to have you all on board from the start. I'm your host, John, also known as 4020. This is a live edition of the Tip Sheet Podcast on a Tuesday evening. Of course, it's normally Teamless Tuesday during the season, but this is our off-season yakking day, Sixties. And speaking of yourself, it's the big fella, Sixties, aka Craig. You all know him. He's my offsider, the number one man at TCT. We actually caught up this morning. We had a catch-up, had a coffee, and that's how I know you're on the warpath. That's how I know it's going to be a spicy episode, because there's some drama to talk about. There is some big things to talk about this week. Not much happens in terms of actual inertial things. Like, nothing's changed, but maybe everything changes, because there's a big precedent that could be set in the coming days or weeks that we're going to talk about. Of course, though, mate, before we get there, how you doing?
Yeah, good, mate, as you said. Bit fired up today. You and I caught up in earlier today up at Kellyville, and just on that note, mate, one of our sponsors, of course, is Parramatta Leagues Club, and I want to give a shout out to the Paradise Cafe up there in the Eels Centre of Excellence at Kellyville. Anyone, if you haven't been up to sample the cafe when the Eels are training, they're not there this week, the Eels, because they're up at Lennox Head, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But when they're training, of course, you can avail yourself of the beverages and the food that's there at the cafe. You can sit out on the balcony overlooking the footy fields at Kellyville and watch the players go through their paces. But the cafe's open, I think it's 7 till 3 or 3:30, 5 days a week. A great location, plenty of parking, great food, great coffee, great other drinks and meals and what have you. So definitely get there. So it's a shout out to the Paradise Cafe, shout out to Parramatta Leagues Club, the home of the Eels. Should also mention, if you're a Parramatta Leagues Club member,
get the discount in the cafe, maybe.
Discount.
Yeah, bring your card out, get the discount. Yep,
it applies there in the cafe.
I saw Phil in chat saying it was great to get a coffee with you at the Paradise Cafe at the members event. So, lots of people getting in there. It's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan and Parramatta as well for their support of the Cumberland Throw, basically since the beginning of TCT. And also, don't forget, if you haven't already done so, please give us a like and subscribe, no matter what platform that you're watching this on or listening, especially with YouTube. We're really keen to hit that 1,000 mark in terms of subscribers. We know we get a lot more views on YouTube than we do subscribers. So
it's the constant battle for content creators. Yeah, it's the
having a look, but not subscribed as yet. If you wouldn't mind doing us a favour, that would be great. But yes, you and I caught up there earlier today. We had a bit of a chat up there with Eels management as well, just going over a few things for the season ahead. But plenty to talk about tonight, John. And look, just before I get into Eels news, something else that has come up in recent weeks that we haven't really spoken about has been in regard to Parramatta Leagues Club, where a few members have put together proposed changes to the Constitution that are going to have to be voted on by members. Now, I can't speak passionately enough about this, John, in terms of rejecting these proposed changes, because it's actually rolling back all of the positive changes that we were able to achieve as a membership. And I say we because so many members stayed strong over years after the 2016 salary caps dramas, and then Max Donnelly being appointed the administrator of the league's club. And we had to fight and go through so many meetings because it took 75% members to vote for the changes to get it through. And real basics like being able to vote postal vote and electronic voting, they want to get rid of that. That's one of the changes that that this particular petition of proposed changes to the Constitution has put forward. Why would you want to get rid of something like that? That takes you back to the dark ages where you might only get a couple of hundred people that attend an AGM, and it only takes stacking a meeting with a majority in a meeting that might be less than 200, and you can control the leagues club with a small number of people. It limits people who live interstate. It limits people who live a distance from the club. It limits people who have to work on days where elections are held. It means physically having to come out and stay in a meeting and vote. And they only ever set up meetings for maybe 100 people in a lot of these AGMs. So please, please, please do not assume that everything is going along swimmingly. Well, it is going along swimmingly, but you've got people that want to change it, but not for the better.
Yep.
Now, please check, if you're a Parramatta Leagues Club member, please, please, please check your inbox. Make sure you check your junk box in case the email from
Filters
the club is on there. Yep. Read through what has been sent, especially some of the emails that have been sent by the Leagues Club President Mark Jenkins.
A reminder that these were changes instituted by essentially the government because of how badly run we were when they brought in the independent directors that facilitate the process for constitutional change. So, I mean, we're preaching to the choir here, you'd imagine, but every vote counts here, guys. So, like Craig said, get into your inboxes, find your voting forms, and if you...
Well, they're at the moment, it's all the voting hasn't opened yet. It's all the explanations about what's going on. But we'll have the AGM coming up soon. You will receive all your voting papers, all of those sorts of things. But please open it up, read what it's about. We cannot afford apathy that, everything's fine, doesn't need my vote. More than anything that's come up recently, this needs your vote of no to the proposed changes. I'm John, I'm absolutely stunned that people would propose removing electronic voting and postal voting.
Going back to the Stone Age.
Yeah. But look, we'll leave it at that. We will probably be talking about it in some of the lead up to the AGM for the Leagues Club, but we want to keep this footy related at the moment. But obviously the Parramatta Leagues Club are the owners of the Parramatta Eels, so it's not going to be something that we're not going to separate the two.
No, they're inexorably entwined. Like, it is just, almost like Ouroboros, isn't it? Like, a snake eating its own tail. They're forever tied together. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to get that off my chest, John, before we start, because we've got
fair play.
else to get off our chest tonight.
Yeah, well, unloading on one front, unloading on the other, and let's get right into it. Oh boy, chat's been popping off already, mate. As you can imagine, people are not impressed about reports that came out yesterday, because a very dangerous precedent could be set in the NRL, and I'm going to let you take it away once this thing is finished.
John, we had wanted to make this a Lomax free zone for a while. We were Lomaxed out. coming into last week. I cannot believe where developments are going. I said before that this was going to be a test of the NRL and a test of Peter V'landys.
A real litmus test, yeah.
Absolutely, because when all this R360 was first rearing its ugly head, and there were all these strong words uttered by PVL about players need to think very, very carefully about the choices that they make, and that any player would be facing a 10-year ban if they signed with R360, if they were engaged in talks, they or their management are engaged in talks with R360. And you would like to think that when literally the first test of those words came about, that we would get some strength. Instead, what it appears at the moment, and it hasn't been any decisions made, but there's been plenty of talk that's been going on so far, it is that the Eels, who in good faith released Zac Lomax from his playing contract for the next 3 years so that he could pursue other interests. Let's not muck around about what those other interests were going to be. We all know what they were. And in return, Zac Lomax signed an agreement that he would not play for another NRL club during that time. Of course, he jumped the gun. Wasn't the smartest thing to do, because it was only literally a matter of days before the announcement came out that R360 would not be going ahead till 2028. Poor Zac. He's left without a contract in rugby league. Well, he's left without what we thought was contracts in rugby league. He had anything he wanted to pursue in any other sport, be it boxing, rugby union, whatever. And lo and behold, here's an interest from the Melbourne Storm. And instead of support for the Parramatta Eels, it appears that all the support is heading towards Zac Lomax.
Not in clubland at least, because there was a report that NRL CEOs,
NRL management, like great sympathy for Zac Lomax, and also for the Storm, where the words that are coming out of NRL management, according to the media, are things like the Parramatta Eels should be prepared to accept reasonable offers.
So to frame the context of the situation as reported yesterday, Craig, the Melbourne Storm have proposed a $200,000 transfer fee to the Parramatta Eels, which they're arguing is in line of what the Bulldogs paid to the West Tigers for Lachlan Galvin, which was around $165,000, maybe $163,000. Numbers are sort of in that ballpark there, and therefore that is deemed to be a fair and reasonable offer. It's not the first time transfer fees have been paid. It's not the first time players walked out of his contract. This is a unique scenario in that the Parramatta Eels gave a controlled release to Zac Lomax that stipulated that you cannot join another NRL club, but you can pursue opportunities in Union, in the English Super League, in MMA, in boxing, whatever you wanted to go do, but you can't play against us for the remainder of your contract. So this is where it becomes an important precedent to set, and why a lot of clubs are aligning themselves with the Parramatta Eels here outside of Melbourne, obviously. The Eels have been adamant, and this is something we were ahead of the curve in this one, saying that transfer fees do nothing for Parramatta. It helps make your bottom dollar or bottom line look a little bit prettier on the annual report. You get a $200,000 bump there as a miscellaneous payment. It does not help you win a premiership. It does not bolster your salary cap. It does not bolster your top 30. It does not bolster your development squad. There is no tangible benefit outside of being able to maybe buy a bit of training equipment that you could already buy if you wanted to, because the Eels are the third wealthiest or third or fourth wealthiest NRL club in terms of the leagues club and whatnot, propping it up. Plus, they're also, I think, a positively financially viable football franchise in terms of the last few years. It does nothing to help us. So that is not a fair and reasonable deal. And I think...
I was just going to say, John, and let's put that 200,000 into context. He's contracted to Parramatta not for next year, but for the next 3 years. So this is a $200,000 monetary settlement that's being offered for a player on a 3-year deal who's a current Origin and Australian representative winger.
Yeah,
who was on 650,000 a year.
Sonic Boom points out that the Bulldogs forked out $500,000 for Carl Lawapu to get a transfer fee out from Brisbane to Canterbury. Before that, obviously fell apart a few years into the deal. Lomax is a incumbent New South Wales and would have been an incumbent Australian winger if he hadn't pulled the shenanigans he pulled to go to the R360. He was picked on the Ashes tour. So, in what way, even if you're just talking transfer fees, in what way is a $200,000 transfer fee deemed reasonable? Let alone asking for proper compensation on a competitive basis. So we're at an impasse here. The Eels are sticking to their guns, as they should. The Eels, by all reports, are backed by the majority of NRL franchises. Other CEOs are standing in behind them saying the NRL needs to be firm here because there is a dangerous precedent that can be set here. And if the NRL wants to step in and say that Zac Lomax needs to go to the Melbourne Storm, it's a very slippery slope to when the NRL starts saying, well, if Zac Lomax needs to go to the Storm, maybe we need to get Mitchell Moses to the Perth Bears. Or maybe we need to get whatever young player to whatever other franchise. Like, if you're going to play kingmaker and pick and choose from one player, what's going to stop you from doing it from the next? And I think that there is some real concerns here, real concerns about the NRL overstepping boundaries and having undue influence on the player market. And I know that there is also a legal story parallel to this, about maybe the NRL wanting to try and get ahead of any potential restraint of trade discovery sort of things in the legal system and whatnot. But I don't know. He's not been restrained of trade in general. He signed under no duress a release that said you can pursue opportunities in other codes, in the same code, but in a different competition in that code. You can go play rugby league.
No, John, no doubt. As he's walking out with those papers, he would have been leaping for joy because he thinks he's going to a huge payday. And it ended up being the complete opposite. The complete opposite.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up chasing a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that doesn't exist, at least not now. Maybe it does exist. And this is the other thing, too, that PVL should be cognizant of, is that you're going to go to battle and really force a player back in that has already shown he's going to walk out not in 1 but 2 contracts. And if R360 is coming in 2 years, which is what the time frame they're arguing is they'll be ready for, he's going to walk away from his 3rd contract. Like, what confidence should Melbourne have that he's going to see out a contract with them? So,
well, you would think none. But John, let's just look at all these things that have unfolded in terms of what you just said there. First of all, about the monetary compensation, as you rightly said, that does nothing for the Eels. For a start, it's not even within the ballpark of where it needs to be. So let's make that very clear. That is not a reasonable offer if the Eels were going to consider receiving monetary compensation in that way. It's and I don't think it would have mattered necessarily what that compensation was. It's not something that the Eels were interested in because, as you said, it's not something that's going to assist them in their quest for performance on the field. Secondly, if they were the other options that could be considered would be things like receiving salary cap dispensation. Now, it is highly unlikely there because, as you said before, when you were talking about precedents, the NRL wouldn't want to go down that path because that then sets a precedent that hasn't happened with any other NRL club, and therefore it probably wouldn't be well supported by clubs that have not received salary cap dispensation for these sorts of scenarios in the past. And outside of that, then you've got a player. Well, we can't really say swap, but being offered a player in compensation for that. And of course, the issue with that is you don't necessarily have the agreement from the player that they would want. Like, you've got players with a contract who may be at the Storm and very happily at the Storm. They're not going to have either the Storm or the NRL come to them and say, you're going to have to leave your current employment, even though you might have a contract for X number of years, and move to the Parramatta Eels, they wouldn't be able to do that. Legally, they wouldn't have a leg to stand on there. So it's going to have to be something that has to be worked through, because no matter what the outcome is, there is going to be a precedent of some sort. That is, if the NRL's involved. If the NRL's not involved, there is no precedent for it. The club can work it out themselves. It's up to the Melbourne Storm to come to the party, not the Parramatta Eels. The Parramatta Eels have a binding agreement with Zac Lomax. This should have nothing to do with the NRL, other than that the NRL supports contracts as they stand and stands behind the statements that were made earlier with regard to players and R360. It's very simple, the role that the NRL should be taking in this. They should not be getting involved to ensure that one club, the club that holds the contract, accepts what they deem to be a fair and reasonable offer.
Yep.
It's got nothing to do with them. It's got nothing to do with something subjective with them. And they set the ground rules for R360.
Yeah, exactly.
They set the ground rules. And Zac Lomax signed an agreement which he was happy to sign. And just because the landscape changed, that landscape's got nothing to do with the Parramatta Eels.
No.
It's got everything to do with Zac Lomax.
And
so Zac Lomax has to wear that. The Melbourne Storm have to wear that. And the NRL should stand behind the club, who was standing firm against R360 and against a player who was going to go to R360.
Yeah. And you're going to see agitation from the Lomax camp now that, I don't know if they'll play like the mental health card, but like it'll be along the lines of, let's get him back in the code. It's only fair to get him back in the code. You can't have anything lost in the code.
Undoubtedly.
This is what my counterpoint is, that if he wants back into the code so badly, why does that have to be Melbourne? If he wants back into rugby league so badly, into the NRL so badly, then any club should be fine. So let the Parramatta Eels go test the market, go find another. If Melbourne don't want to come to the table, I'm sure we can go to another club. I'm sure there'll be other clubs that be interested in finding a representative winger or centre, if he views himself, in his mid-20s, that will be of notional value to one of their players to be swapped. And don't let the NRL cop out to, he has to go to Melbourne. No, he wants back into the NRL. He goes where a club will take him. So whether that's Cronulla, whether it's the Gold Coast, whether that's any sort of New South Wales club, whether it's the Warriors. If someone's got a player they want to come to the table with and say, okay, well, you've got the winger, you've got the centre, we've got the prop, or, we've got whatever, or we've got another winger. We'll just swap wingers. We'll give you a speedster winger, you give us the yardage winger. There shouldn't be an issue, right? Because he wants back into the code. It doesn't have to be Melbourne.
Yeah. If Zac Lomax...
No, AJ, no deal. Fair deals, mate, fair deals. AJ's offering the Butcher Boys for Lomax. Well, we'll pass.
If Zac Lomax wanted, at the time that this was negotiated, wanted to come back into the NRL, there could have been something that was sorted out then and there. And also it could have been sorted out a lot earlier too, from his perspective, because the way it played out, the Eels lost. There was an opportunity.
And that's the other argument you're going to hear from their camp is, well, if you don't want to go to other clubs and you don't want to sign him, then what are you doing? It's like, well, you can understand why the Parramatta Eels don't want him back, because he burned them. And this is the problem, is that he burned their opportunity cost to replace him. He stalled out and balked at leaving until a point that the Eels had no recourse in the player market. Alafiana Camperera went to the Warriors. There were a number of other young players and young wingers that went elsewhere that we couldn't pursue because Zac Lomax's $750,000 or $700,000, or whatever it is, was on the cap. And the Eels can't move until they knew about that. So, yes, you can argue that the Eels shouldn't hold him back if they're not going to take him back. But he also prevented us from replacing him. So it's there is layers to this that you're going to see arguments on one side that you can counter with arguments from our side. And like I said, the Eels, I think they should stand strong here. And I think that they'll get other clubs behind them. And if the NRL want to overstep and force their hand, then maybe this escalates to maybe some sort of holdout. I don't know. I don't know how serious the Eels want to draw a line in the sand here alongside other clubs. Like, do you see a lockout or a holdout if the NRL want to say who gets to play where?
Well, John, the way that I see it is that I don't think the NRL can be playing any sort of part in this whatsoever in terms of saying that a club that holds a contract like Parramatta should accept an offer from another club. Now, there might be something that can be put forward that becomes acceptable to the Eels, but there is no way that what's been put forward thus far is it's a joke. It's an insult, and it's not just a joke and an insult to the Parramatta Rugby League Club. It's insulting to the fans of the Parramatta Eels. There is a real chance that the NRL can alienate not just Parramatta fans, but fans across a number of club fan bases who, whilst they might not feel as passionately as the Eels do, they can recognise when a precedent is set or when the governing body maybe oversteps the mark in what they're doing, and then why are they, why are there preferences? Are there favoured clubs? There's always perception with that sort of thing. You don't want to add to perception. You don't want to add to perception because I'm sure that all clubs are treated exactly the same, John. I'm sure that that's the case.
I mean, chat's put through a litany of the times the Eels have been burned. It's not just the Eels get the short end of the stick here and there, don't get me wrong, but the time where the NRL wouldn't allow the Eels to pay for Fui Fui's parents to come over for the milestone game. Obviously, Israel Folau notional value, Jared Hayne notional value when he came back from the States, and they forced him into the Gold Coast Titans under new management as a marquee signing. There's a lot of that stuff that's happened. It's happened to other clubs too. So it is frustrating. I don't know. You'll have to wait and see what happens now. What's the next move? Like, who's going to break here? Just trying to think. Did I say something? Jackson saying that the Melbourne Storm have posted about a 10 a.m. announcement tomorrow. Yeah, I think they're being a bit of a prick tease there. I think they're sort of cashing in on the hype or the drama to try and maximise what I assume would be a jersey announcement or something like that. If it is a Lomax announcement, then I will be very upset. If the NRL is just going to brute forces.
They can't make a Lomax announcement.
Yeah.
He's not legally in a position to sign.
Yeah.
So. It's that if there cannot be an agreement, then it has to go down the legal path. Has to. You can't have, as I said, you can't have the NRL stepping in and saying, well, no, this is going to happen now. Sorry, Parramatta. This is what you're going to accept from the Storm, and that's the end of the story. Like they can't step in and do that. They can try to be
arbitrators. Yeah, they're going to be the ombudsman or arbitrators. Yeah, exactly. But
they cannot force the Eels to do something now.
If they deem that $200,000 is a fair transfer fee, then that, like, again, Parramatta should start tampering essentially. Go out there, tamper. Say, no, we'll pay a $200,000 transfer fee. It's fine. It's fine. We've got the backing from the Weeks Club. We can pay a transfer fee. That's okay. We'll take your best player. We'll take your best back. You've got a good promising forward. We'll have them. So it's a real shitstorm right now, and it could get worse. I would argue that surely common sense sees the way, but Peter V'landys can be very stubborn, can be very strongly opinionated in his beliefs of what's best for the game, and if he happens to dig his heels in here, it could be ugly for Parramatta. So we have to wait and see what's going to happen. What we do have in our corner are the other clubs, which I think is important. I think the fact that there is a solidarity block of support for the Eels, means that this shouldn't go away quietly. That this might actually be a bit of a line in the sand moment for the code, but we have to wait and see. But what a frustrating turn. That is one of the worst possible things you could have seen yesterday, that report. I think it was Christian Nicolucci who broke the news. So there's where your scoop came from.
And wouldn't it be interesting, John, to find out what the source of his scoop was. Was it the Melbourne Storm? Was it the NRL? Because that may say a bit, and we can only speculate as to where the story has come from. But if it would be highly disappointing if the story originated from the NRL themselves. We know that journos get stories. Let's put the air inverted commas around.
It's the business, yeah. Like they get managers or clubs will plant stories to help drive the narrative. We know that. We know that or it's still 17 NRL clubs. They all do it, Parramatta included. You're going to try and work the presses, but yes, that is important. Was the source of this one from Melbourne? Was it from the NRL? Was it a player manager offering their insights? Who knows? But it would definitely shape the color of the how you read it, isn't it? Like, does it have that distinct purple and black tint to it from Melbourne, or is it from the NRL? And yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard any indication either way, but
Melbourne have got. There's not. I don't know if it's too strong to say there's a stench coming out of Melbourne in terms of the players that are departing, but something's going on there.
There is a desperation to this whole thing that you have not seen from Melbourne before. I agree.
Yeah,
they obviously let Ryan Pappenhausen and Nelson Asofa Solomona walk. That was a clear decision they made. Eli Katoa was out of their hands. That's just pure bad luck in the Pacific Championships. So they're probably feeling the pinch a bit here of some of their premium talent. In particular, I mean, I know Asofa Solomona was trending downwards, but Pappenhausen and Katoa were blue chip players for them. You know, Katoa really broke out as a legit superstar on the edges for them, and Ryan Pappenhausen has been not a representative fullback in terms of actual selection, but on the precipice of representative selection for years. So in that caliber, and while they do have some players to come in like Sua, Fa'alongo, in terms of the fullback role, they can't really replace all these guys one-to-one with quality. So yeah, they're feeling the pinch.
And they're going to lose those players to the Bears.
Yes, and they're losing Meaney and Wishart to the Bears. Exactly. So their roster is taking a turn here. They are getting hit. And there's constant rumours about Bellamy's status at the club. Will he retire finally? Will he pull the pin? He's going to go another year. Who knows? There is a looming sense of finality here, and you can feel that maybe they feel that the window is closing, and they can't open a new one, but that this particular chapter is closing, and they're trying to keep it open as much as possible by forcing a Zac Lomax acquisition. And yeah, they got to the grand final in 2025, but the field is narrowing too. We saw that this year, that there are clubs rising, that the pure unchallenged dominance of the Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers is being challenged now. Brisbane are a powerhouse. The Eels are on the rise, as we hope. There are a number of other clubs. Cronulla are starting to figure out the finals. They got to win. The Bulldogs, the NRL is trending towards a more competitive parity than we've seen in recent years. So maybe there is a sense of impending, not doom, but the clock's ticking, and that's why they're trying to force this so hard.
Yeah, I'm sure that factors in there, John, because I mean, apart from when they gradually lost their big four over a number of years, they were still able to, because that was a bit of a trickle. They were able to,
and they had Munster and they had Grant in the pipeline.
Yeah, that's right. They had the next generation.
They did a great job engineering Jerome Hughes from fullback into halfback. That was an inspired move from Bellamy and company. But they did have multiple pieces in place to help facilitate the transfer there, the transition.
Yeah,
they aren't there right now.
If Bellamy goes, John.
Yeah, well, that's the.
I could honestly see that unless they were able to manage a serious recruitment drive, if he walked away at the end of his current contract, unless they were able to really get some recruitment happening, they could have, for the first time, I think ever, this sudden drop-off out of finals football. Because how many years in a row is it, apart from the salary cap drama, when they had the points deducted, that where they weren't playing for points in that particular year? It didn't matter. But they're just perpetual finals footballs.
Oh, yeah. Right. They've been an institution, haven't they? Like,
Yeah. So, John, is there any more thoughts? Strong, non-libelous statements from chat?
Neil's got some odds in there for the Storm to miss the 8 and suggesting people should get on it. I don't know about that. I hope so, mate. It'd be nice. That's the other thing I see it in chat. Who posted that one there? Was it Jackson? Yeah. Behind all this is the forgetting that the Eels versus the Storm in round 1. Like, there is another layer of drama to be had here. That if Lomax does end up the Storm, will there be a no compete clause? Will he have to stand down against Parramatta? Like,
that to me is Mickey Mouse stuff.
I agree, but the Eels play the Storm in round 1, so there's another layer of drama to be had here. Jackson was asking, you see the RLPA coming back in Melbourne, not having the force of player trade for Lomax? Yeah, player. I don't know. Again, I'm a big. You can see my Seahawks kid on, who are in the NFC Championship versus the Rams, a hated rival, which is a great thing for me, but another piece of drama to talk about later in the end of the podcast. The NFLPA, the NBAPA, the NRLPA, the player associations, they're not toothless tigers, but they will, like a union at times, like unions are important, they are a union. Unions are important for labour rights and protecting those things, but they also will fight over the stupidest shit. They'll literally just dig their heels in to say that they're digging their heels in for the players. Like, they should not be protecting Zac Lomax in this site. Oh, I've managed to bump my camera. Let me see if I can fix that. They should not be protecting Zac Lomax here. Sorry, my camera's just no. All right, give me one sec. I'll just turn my camera off.
We've got a bit of a technical issue there, John.
Yeah, let me just reset the camera. It's doing the stop frame motion thing.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, that's them. That's them. I think just like trying to back a player, even if it's wrong, and I don't think that they're helping the cause here, because this will lead to things far beyond Zac Lomax in terms of the issues.
John, at least when your camera failed, it didn't have you in one of those horrible.
It didn't have me going like that. I think, yeah. But yeah, I think we're back. So look, there is a lot to play out here, guys. It's going to be very frustrating, one way or the other. I don't see a clean resolution happening in the short term, at least. It's definitely have to wait until the next turn. Is Jackson saying he can't believe he's Pats in the AFC Championship game? Yeah, Pats versus either way. If the Seahawks get through, it's going to be one of our last 2 Super Bowls: the 2013 Denver Super Bowl or the 2014 Patriots Super Bowl. So, kind of crazy how things have worked out that way. Oh my God, the camera again! What is happening? Okay, I'll give it one more chance. Otherwise, I might have to go cameraless today. I don't know what's happening. On that note, mate, I'm going to let you move on to the next topic while I try and fix this stupid camera.
Okay, so this week, as people would have noted from Eels media and also from my training reports, the Eels have relocated up to Lennox Head, up the far north coast, for a week-long training camp. They departed on Sunday, I believe it was. They've had a couple of training sessions already. John, I can let you know that I've received a training report from Leno Eel, from a fellow who's also affectionately known as Scoop up in that region. And he's very kindly not only gone to the Eels training session, and he will be at another one later this week. He's also submitted the report, and I've had a chance to go through it. And without giving too much away, what I will say is that he was incredibly impressed with Charlie Geimer and the work that Charlie Geimer was doing. So Charlie was primarily playing in the New South Wales Cup team in the opposed work, according to Leno Eel. But he said he was dominating in what he was doing there. So it's no surprise, because I think Charlie's been one of the standout performers in this pre-season.
He's been trending upwards.
He's really maturing. Yeah. He's maturing as a footballer. Alongside a player like Luca Moretti, he is going to be very, very hard for Jason Riles to leave out.
And really, I see Neil in chat sort of touching on what I was going to say is that the camera. I'm just going to turn my camera off. I'm sorry. The silver lining here for the Eels in terms of missing Keon Koloamatangi is that suddenly, like re-securing the likes of Charlie Guymer becomes so feasible because they might still make a splash signing at some point, but in terms of their like freed up cap space, they should be competitive with any offer that comes along for the likes of Charlie Guymer.
Yeah. It's the Eels are going to have a very strong pack that they put forward. Again, this keeps coming back to Zac Lomax, but Zac Lomax made things a lot more difficult in our backline depth, the outside backs. We've got in securing Brian Kelly, we've got a little bit more depth than we had after the departure of Zac Lomax, but Kelly's only been able to join us from January onwards, so we missed the best part of 2 months pre-season with him. Not sure how that's going to impact selections for round one. He's an experienced player. He seems to be adjusting to things very well. But anyway, as I said, the Eels are up at Lennox Head until Saturday this week. So I believe there will be a field session that I guess locals would be able to see on Thursday. But apart from that, I think that's probably the only one that they'd be able to get to have a look at the work. And then next week, back into action up at Kellyville as well. And I guess we start the countdown then to the trials, because it's not very long between having this part of the pre-season and getting into trials. And Parramatta had already started some of the serious contact work at the end of last week, and this is the part of the pre-season that's really, really good to watch, because if you just want your football fix, you start to see a lot more football at training. You start to see them play, I guess, uninterrupted flows of football, where the session becomes, or the opposed work becomes less contrived. It starts to flow a little bit more. So, I'm looking forward to them coming back from Lennox Head, but I know all the players and the coaches really look forward to getting up there. It's assistant coach Scott Wisemantle. It's his neck of the woods up there. It's not too far away from Nathan Brown's neck of the woods, so they enjoy being up there. And in his report, Leno Eel gives us some details about what the setup is like there, and you'll understand why the club makes use of the sort of facilities that they've got up there. John, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
Yep. I'm going to press ahead with the next item on our agenda, which is the junior rep trials. We've got the final junior rep trials this weekend up at Windsor against Penrith. So again, it finishes quite strongly. That's three really strong opponents, three strong clubs that the Eels have elected to play trials against this year, in going with the Cronulla Sharks, Canterbury Bulldogs, and the Penrith Panthers. And we should have some team lists for our calls this week, which we're looking forward to. But just running through the results last week, and bear in mind there's no goals that are goal attempts.
Yeah, it's all just tries and tries the restarts. Yeah.
Now there might be in the final trial, because I recollect there's normally one of the trials where they do kick for goal, so it gets closer to normal match conditions. But on Friday night, we had the Lisa Fiaola team go down 32-20 to the Bulldogs. It was probably a game where the coaches of both teams may not be happy with the defence that was on show. There was certainly some really some soft tries that were scored, and it was a game where, as far as I could see, that holding on to possession really determined what, as it does in any game, but it really seemed to be there were flows of tries that were going with possession, and that really was indicative that the defence wasn't necessarily doing enough to turn around the tides of possession that were happening in that game. We then had the Tarsha Gale team defeat the Bulldogs 24-20. Now, this was a really interesting game to watch because the Eels didn't start well. They were down 12-0 within the first quarter, and they built from there. And what you had as the game went on was Parramatta just overpowering the Bulldogs playing a style of football which wasn't dissimilar to what the NRL team tries to play. Really fast, aggressive football through the ruck, and they were really all over the Bulldogs by that final quarter, and just seeing. And I'm again, we didn't have a team list, but I'm sure that was Freedom Crichton Rapati.
Yeah.
That was doing some serious damage when she was coming in for runs around the ruck. But it was that skill level was a step above what the Bulldogs were able to deliver as the game went on. Just those short, sharp passes to get that roll on through the ruck was really good. Then we got to Saturday, and we had again the results were shared. The Bulldogs were too strong in the Harold Mats. Now, what we noticed happened there was the Eels were quite strong during the first half when, and then there was a lot of player turnover in terms of who was getting the run.
Like you said, they're rotating a lot of players. Bulldogs came out of the second half very physical. They dominated the second half of that game. But the Eels, in the first half, I think they were like slightly ahead as the better team. But I was thinking Hayden Bell was very good. Then the back rower, where was it? Capavilla was very good too. Yep, down the right edge. But to my understanding, the Eels were missing a few players in the Harold Bats. But the Bulldogs really pushed them in the second half. Like they got shoved around a bit in the second half. So maybe the depth of the squad isn't quite there. If injuries strike and they have to reach into their pockets there, they might be pushed a little bit thin. Who knows? But they did okay. It wasn't like oh my god, we're terrible in the Harold Mats. But I have to wait and see at full strength what they look like. But as opposed to the SG Ball, where it looks like the Eels are drowning in talent. Like we'll talk about that now, but the Harold Mats are probably a little bit thinner than their senior brothers.
Yeah, and look, a lot of players were, as you said, there was a lot of rotations made. I think they used something like 3 or 4 different fullbacks during that particular game. So, like for example, Lorimer CSU, he started off at centre, then he was at fullback, then he was out of fullback. He might have been off the field then as well, but so then another player was playing fullback. So it was a lot of chopping and changing, and basically what happened when they got to the third quarter, they really lost their way. They were playing completely without shape. The Bulldogs were pinning them down in their red zone. They couldn't. They were struggling just to get the ball out of their own quarter. There were mistakes that were happening. I thought in the last quarter, Josh Hodgson brought on a number of players that had played at the start of the game, and he brought them on. I think Curtis Brown had a second stint out there, the prop. He was one of those players. And when that happened, they found a little bit more direction in the final quarter. They might have won that final quarter as well from memory, but anyway, they went down 20-12, which is basically 5 tries to 3. But then we talk about the SG Ball, and the 40-8 scoreline is 10 tries to 2 against the Bulldogs. Now, these are only trials, and you don't get too carried away with trials. But what we've seen from the Eels SG Ball team in the first couple of trials in this pre-season is that they just looked really, really dominant. And they had players missing from the first trial. They still had players missing from this trial. But the forward pack were just impossible to stop, John. And then when you saw how some of the players were able to play off the back of that, like Cameron Bamblett, what he was able to do off that pack.
Oh yeah, no time anxiety too. Sorry, sorry, correct. I just asking in chat who was missing, just to confirm. No Lincoln Fletcher, no Ryder Talangi, no Samuel Polly, no Talon Rosati, because I thought that was Talon in the 6, but it was Chris Moala who was playing centre in the 6 because Cam Bamblett was in the 23, I think it was, playing halves. Yeah. And then you had the West Tigers signing Sterling Fatanui. I believe it was Sterling Fatanui, I'm not sure, playing the opposite half there. So, yeah, very, very... Like I said, you don't overreact to trials, but that's the sort of dominance you don't see in a trial as well. Like, that was a complete demolition job. Canterbury always fire up for these games too in the preseason. It's a real challenge for them to try and go out and shake up the Eels.
Yes.
And that was just a complete annihilation gig. They just tore them apart. Every phase. Yep. Physically in defence, in the ruck, on the edges. I know AJ was in chat before. The Eels and the Roosters had 2 phenomenal SG ball squads in 2025. I don't know how, but the Eels have produced one that might be every bit as good as the 25 squad. I have to wait and see how it goes on the field because you can throw away games in the junior reps and find yourself behind the 8 ball very quickly, which you hope you don't do. But there is a lot of talent in this team. Very encouraging, including some new faces, some junior year players. Steve Nunn was awesome. Harold Matthews graduate, first year SG ball player. He had a running man off the bench too. You texted me the name, Craig. Nick Kodarak, who was also very good off the bench in headgear too. We saw a little bit of some of those senior players you mentioned. Cameron Bamblett, he was very good. I think Chris Petrus got a very short run, scored a try and then pretty much came off. I think he was playing lock forward in that one. I think Mason Ong was there as well, which is good to see Mason because he absolutely dominated the one game he played last year and then missed the rest of the season. AJ saying that the Roosters squad is shaping up really sharp too. Yeah, good to hear. So it's going to be maybe a rerun of the grand final, depending on how we are fall there. Sonic saying the rotation.
We're looking forward to our preview podcast with AJ.
Yeah, have a big preview of AJ would be fantastic. And then Sonic Boom also pointing out one of the players I wanted to shout out, and it's a new face. Jackson Coyner in the 21 was tremendous through the middle, Craig. He was very, very good. Looked very strong in all phases, both offensively and defensively. Warren asked, where's Nick?
John, can also give a shout out to Jairus Stewart's mum.
Yes, helping out the coverage. Yep,
and was helping out with the identification of some of the players.
Jairo nabbed the Hattie, didn't he?
Sorry,
I think Jairo nabbed the Hattie in the game as well.
He was. I'm trying to think. He went close to playing maximum minutes in that. He would have had to have played some of the longest minutes of any of the players out there. But he did very well. But we really appreciate his mum for saying g'day to me, and then to help me out with with identifying some of the players, because the jersey, as you pointed out, the jersey numbers didn't relate at all to the position that they were playing. And
in Harold Matts, we had a prop playing in the 3 as well, which didn't. There was some some interesting ways. We saw Riley Davis, the fullback. He had a couple of nice touches as well. Going back to what Sonic Boom was saying, Jackson Coyner very good. Sorry, just had a brain fade there. Great to see Mason Ong back as well. Like I said, he had the one game last year and then missed the entire season. And Sonic also answering a question chat that I was about to, Kodarak from Norths, but also a dual coder as well. I think he's like a few of the Eels prospects, being affiliated with the Waratahs as well. So he's got a bit of a mixed background there. And Michael Nower, that was a good one, Joel. He looked big and sharp on the right edge. Now one of those 2 Harold Mack graduating back rows alongside Polly that the Eels are very high on. It's It's a very good
really
squad.
the decision that has to be made going forward, John, is what you do with players like Lincoln Fletcher and
Ryder.
Talangi, because as we've talked about with the Eels in the past, the goal with pathways is to develop future NRL players. If you win a title, which you want to do, but if you win a title, that's the icing on the cake along the way. So they have to not only balance the teams themselves, but what's the best interest of individual players and what is the best interest of their development as far as the club is concerned as well. So, for players like Lincoln Fletcher and Ryder Talangi, are they best to start off in Jersey Flegg rather than SG Ball, even though they're SG Ball eligible? You could stack that SG Ball team with players who have done an NRL pre-season. Would that help them playing an extra long season? Because they've not only done an NRL pre-season, they then would be required to go in and join the SG Ball.
It's a delicate formula because not all SG Ball players are still in school, but some would be. So you've also got to consider school commitments later in the year as well. So there is certainly a formula the club would use. You want to pump as much football into them as possible without burning them out. And
exactly.
I mean, Warren's saying that playing in ball flag doesn't start till March. That is generally the ethos the Eels have used, that more football is better. And you'll see players start in ball if they are ball eligible. And that's why I thought Fletcher and Ryder would be near certainties to start in the ball initially, Craig. But the fact that they stayed on first grade training means that they're probably not going to. That the rest of them will. Like guys like Petrus and Bamblet, who are perfectly capable of playing Jersey flag, and they showed that last year. They will start in ball and then probably graduate the flag when needed. And I think that's probably going to be the general MO for the Eels. But yeah, Ryder and Lincoln and whatnot, I think that you probably can tip them to be starting in flag and then maybe pushing through higher from there. So I have to wait and see. And speaking of Lincoln, Gallagher says he rates Lincoln higher than Lorenzo. What are our opinions on that? I mean, first impression is different positions, right? Or similar positions but different roles. Lincoln is very much being viewed as a long-term successor. All right. Calm down, mate. Calm down. Just hitting the pedal there. No, but Lincoln is being viewed long-term as a successor to Mitchell Moses. Lorenzo is his offside, would be his offsider prospectively, being the off-ball running 5'8". But if you're talking about evaluation of pure positional value, then yes, Fletcher you'd imagine Fletcher is viewed maybe slightly higher because having a ball-dominant organising playmaker it's the holy grail, isn't it? It's the one you build your team around. But in saying that, Lorenzo was awesome last year. So, players like in that sort of Jerome Luai mold, I know people don't like me making that reference, but they're very similar. Like they're, tackle breaking, ball runners, heads up, really annoying to deal with for the defenses. There's certainly a big value there too. But yes, I do understand why you might favour Lincoln Fletcher. Purely positional value is just a big slant in his favour, but he's also an outstanding young player, ultra fit. He's shown the athletic ability to play fullback for the Australian schoolboys. So yeah, he's a real talent, and you can see why the Eels are in on him for sure. Yeah,
and anyone that can beat Riley Smith in a Broncos run has certainly got that fitness level that's quite elite. And he's come into an NRL preseason as an 18-year-old for the very first time into an NRL preseason and been a leading player when it came to fitness. So you just have to wonder where he goes to from here. He's certainly a player to keep an eye on. That's for certain.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Lincoln didn't even play Jersey flag last year, so let's not get ahead of ourselves in terms of what he's going to be able to produce. He was an SG ball player, and he had like his schoolboy football commitments and things like that are going on. So he wasn't rushed up into Jersey flag. And then you have someone like Lorenzo, who ended up playing about 12 games in New South Wales Cup.
I think it was 8 or 9 in the end. It was like a very good portion of the season on top of playing flag as well. So yeah, Lorenzo's put the runs on the board in the senior competitions in both the 21s and open football. But yeah, huge opinion of Lincoln Fletcher. I can understand Gallagher why you would rate him so highly. Real talent, and I think
absolutely. You put me on the spot, and I think without question he would be the heir apparent to Mitchell Moses.
Yes, I think that's again. Like I'm not. This isn't insider news, but that is very much a feel I get looking from our position that the club view Lincoln as their long-term successor at 7. And can Fletcher tackle? I don't think he's a bad defender by any means. He's no Dylan Brown, which is the benchmark for every young half coming through in terms of being a defensive player. But yeah, I don't think he's been a weak defender by any means.
No, but I get where the question's coming from, because once you start getting up into the open age football, you're going to be tested. There is nothing in what we've seen of a couple of years, and it's only been 2 years of Pathways football that John and I have seen of Lincoln, as well as what I've seen in this pre-season. But he sort of appeared in that in his senior year of Harold Matt, so he didn't play as a 16-year-old.
Got the red shirt 16, to use an American term, the red shirt 16-year-old season, where they developed him in a development squad. Shock, what a shock. But yeah, he came on in the senior year of Matt's and has not looked back. Yeah, so he had a pretty solid year in that year, but then I think last year he went to a different level, and then it's been, I think, an NRL pre-season has been absolutely fantastic for him, and we're only partway through it. I think both he and Ryder are scheduled to finish the full NRL pre-season, basically go into the NRL. I think they wind up when the NRL trials finish. So, and then they'll drop back to whatever team they'll be playing with from there. I don't think they'll be. Look, it could change. They might be kept on as on a full-time contract, which I guess at that levels you'd call it a train and trial level if you're not in top 30 and if you're not on a development deal. But back to chat. Sonic Boom, who's had some great opinions and insights on the players, says junior titles don't matter. Develop NRL players do. I know a certain Eels NRL head coach who would agree very strongly with you, Sonic Boom. I think that Jason Riles will be all about NRL, prioritising NRL development, which is what we saw in 25. We saw the young players going up to flag and going up to the New South Wales Cup, as opposed to their senior incumbents and winning out those reps for development. So I would expect to see more of that in 2026. I think Jason Riles absolutely subscribes to the theory that we're here to win an NRL premiership, not junior titles. If we get some along the way, it's great, but we're prioritising the development of these players to be ready for first grade. So, and in that vein, JJ, I saw your question. What players do you think will make their debut this year? We're still a little bit out from the trials, which will give us greater clarity on where some of these players stand in the pecking order, Craig. But you've been watching the preseason, and we're always leery to put undue pressure on the young players, but there's been some fantastic performers amongst the young talent in the preseason. We saw some guys do very well in the trials last year, not make debuts. I think we saw Tianka sort of emerge last year in the trials. We saw Arpatuaro have some great moments against Newcastle. So there's guys that have been there, done that, and are still in the picture. We've got some of those SG Ball eligible guys, which I don't think you'll probably see who you see maybe in the short term, especially Lincoln, but maybe Ryder, who knows. But what's your take on potential debutants for the Eels at this point?
I don't think there's going to be as many as last year, because coming into last year there was very much a shift from the older players to the younger players that was taking place. So we had, like, right from the start of the year, when you had Riley Smith debut and Sam Tuivasa debut, and then it just went from there. All the players that got their opportunity. The thing is, all of those players are now vying for spots as regulars in first grade. So is there room there for more debutants? It's probably less likely in the forwards because there's a lot of competition in the forwards. If there was a player that was going to debut in the forwards, perhaps it's Tiankum Brown that might get that debut. If we're talking about
Will
in the
Latu?
back line, yes. Look, Will Latu's a good call. I think if he played last year without injury, he gets his debut last year. Look, I honestly believe he would have debuted last year. He just had too many occasions where he'd be starting to get a run of football behind him, and then an injury would hit. And he's got the talent, and I guess another player who's not dissimilar there is Tyrese Lakini as well, who is he's a very, very solid middle forward, and it'd be interesting to see them really make their mark in the New South Wales Cup. So, look, they're possibilities, but
Joel's throwing out Araz Namva as a debut.
I was about to get to the back line. I think there's maybe more opportunity for backs to make their debut on account of injury, and that's where you might see the likes of Araz getting a debut. Outside of maybe Arpa getting a run. Arpa's got some versatility on his side. Like, he could basically cover any position in the back line, from the halves, fullback, outside backs. So he's an interesting one because he's played a lot of fullback in the pre-season because Joash has had a fair bit of time running with the NRL team, either when Mitch Moses has been sitting out just on like a workload issue, or just a management of little niggles, through to Moses is playing in a pose, and then next thing Jason Rolls sits him out and runs the halves without him, and Joash comes in and plays 5'8", and we see Pezzett then moving to Moses' side of the field 7, and playing as a halfback. When Pezzett is playing with Moses, Pezzett, to my way of thinking, we're almost playing with two halfbacks. Like, it's Pezzett can play exactly like a halfback, but on the other side of the field. And he's got the kicking game. He's got a very, very good kicking game, John. His decision, the way he links with Gideon, his decision about when to pass, when not to pass. He's, to me, if you were putting him against other players with similar experience in terms of number of NRL games, he's ahead of the curve in that regard. So, but that's, I don't think I'd go beyond that, because if I'm going beyond that, I'm starting to conjecture about multiple injuries.
Yeah,
across
that's the wild card, isn't it? Injuries and suspensions that stack on top of each other, and once that happens, and you're sort of reaching into your depth, a lot sort of opens up. Like you said, you sort of start considering a lot of the quote unquote fringe guys. But yeah, in the wing, you've got guys like Josiah Funai-Yuta who could absolutely debut in those sort of scenarios where it's just a few injuries open the way for him in the depth chart there. Joel saying Fort Bailey was almost back at full load. Yeah, I think he's been building up nicely, so that'll be good for us to get him back into full capacity.
Bailey's had a child this week, so he's become a father.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, so we should send out congratulations to he and his wife or partner Sarah for having their first child this week. So I don't think he's, as a consequence, I don't think he was at Lennox Head. I think
Gallagher's saying Bailey's injured again, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see.
No, He's actually come back from a hamstring issue.
Yeah.
So
Joel also saying
and
that
was involved in Friday's contact session, which was had a little bit of serious contact.
Yeah,
in
if
it.
anyone caught the reports, there's a bit of a oomph in that one there. What have we got here? Did have a question from JJ, who said he'd seen vague reports about the Eels potentially signing a half for 2027. Had you heard anything to that effect? Obviously, the Eels with Jonah Pezzett in the interim role there. But Joel alongside that saying that potentially Joash, Fletcher, or Lorenzo will be ready for the NRL for next year. I mean, Joash is, I think, our first choice backup half right now. In terms of you can shift Pezzett to 7 if Moses gets injured or whatnot. I'd be...
Joash has had a different preseason, John, to last year. Joash caught the eye with spectacular footwork last year, and it's not that he hasn't got the spectacular footwork, but he's been developing his organising game, his passing game. It's I think people will see a more complete footballer out of Joash, and he's still in the early stages of being a footballer, but he's on that path to becoming a more complete footballer based on what I'm seeing in this pre-season. So he hasn't the recruitment of Pezzett for this season. He hasn't been kicking stones and thinking this is his opportunity taken. He's put the bit between the teeth.
Rising up to the challenge, yeah.
Rising up to the challenge, yeah.
Warren's off. He's got a name for us. So this would be an interesting depth signing. Warren's saying Jack Cole, the young Penrith half. So that would be maybe a bit of a depth competition signing if that's the case, because he hasn't established himself at Penrith.
So you're saying for 27?
For 27, I guess, yeah.
Okay.
And Joel asks, is that any better than what we have? Good question. He's been he's got a pretty interesting frame. He's tall. He's almost like that pseudo back rower / half that you sometimes see in the code. I guess it comes down to how they stack the New South Wales Cup, right? Because you're going to have Fletcher, you're going to have Talatino, Volkman's still contracted for another year. So maybe he might be a Volkman replacement if they look to move on from Ronald.
Well, I guess that comes down to Ronald and what he wants, because
yeah, right, yeah.
Ronald Volkman is a very good player to have.
Oh, he was
level.
fantastic at the cup level last year, and he's a guy that I think if we saw a little bit of him in first grade under pretty dire circumstances at the start of season 2025, but if you had to turn to him in 26 with the right supporting cast after him getting healthy and back in form, he'd do a job for you in first grade. I got plenty of time for Volkman and where he stands at the Eels. He's been very good for us. AJ saying he sees a lot of Burton vibes in Jack Cole. I kind of see that. Yeah, obviously Burton had a far more accelerated start to his career, but yeah, that's a similar sort of rangy frame for a half. Is he a back row? Is he a centre? Is he a 5'8" kind of deal? Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's something to watch. Warren with maybe a little scoop there. We'll definitely track that one, mate, and see what. And Chris saying he sees Dean Hawkins and Jack Cole. So that kind of player there. I mean, there's value on that. So yeah, it depends on, like you said, where does Ronald Volkman see himself beyond 26? Does he want to pursue opportunities to get back into first grade with the Eels maybe pretty clearly having other options that are sort of ascending ahead of him? And if he were to choose to pursue options elsewhere, you would not fault him. He's been a great pickup for us and added a lot of value to the club. And you just wish him the best in those endeavours if that was the case. This is a hypothetical, of course. So yeah.
Now I'm gonna apologise in advance, John, if this canine tooth of mine drops out during during this.
I got to look at it today. It's a rough deal. So yeah, the big fella's scheduled for a bit of dental surgery at the end of the week, but yeah, he's in the wars right now. On that note, we'll keep moving, I suppose, because we don't want to get stuck up here too long. Yeah, you want to go to the intermission then?
I think we're at intermission.
Okay.
Time, yeah.
Look, it's Eels are rallying against the establishment, against the authority. They want to get a fair deal. So we're going for a bit of punk rock, and maybe the message won't play out for us because we're not going to take it as the theme, but we might have to take it if the NRL want to enforce it upon us. But Yeah, a bit of Twisted Sisters here and one of the classic punk rock songs there. So hopefully it's true. We don't take it. We get the deal we want. Just a fair deal. Not $200,000. Just a good player. My dog's not taking it. He's up at something.
No, he's not taking it, John. He's not going to take it.
What's wrong, brother?
I thought when you were saying you were going into punk rock, you might have been hitting pretty vacant by the Sex Pistols. But
We did the Sex Pistols not too long ago, I feel like. Where's my catalogue? Did I do the Sex Pistols recently? Maybe I looked at a Sex Pistols song not too long ago. I'm looking at my catalogue and I don't have anything in there, Sex Pistols, but maybe it was
I might have had Twisted Sister in the list of Joey Grimer's favourite era of the hair bands.
Yeah,
from the 80s.
Yeah, I was looking at Anarchy in the UK for some tenuous connection I was going to make on a podcast at some point. I can't remember. I can't remember what it was. It was something a few months ago. I was going to do Anarchy in the UK. So,
well, let's dive into perhaps one of the reasons that we're in this position because of the Storm, which is the Perth Bears, and they've launched their logo. John, what do you think of it?
Pretty safe. I mean, it harkens to the classic Bears logo. You remember the Bulldogs logo that they redid that got a bit of a flack for being AI? It felt a little like that. I did see an article that there are some dates hidden in the Bears logo. What is this? Oh, anyway, regardless, it's good that they finally put their logo out there, which means they can start making gear, because all their player signing announcements have been guys in black shirts and black polos, like not even like black and red, so they can get some official kit on their signings and actually spruce up those announcements and make them look good. I was trying to look at. So they're going to be wearing red and black hoops, apparently, per the CEO. So that's a nice throwback there.
Yeah. So basically, the Wanderers.
Yeah, you're right. It is the Wanderers. Hopefully, a little bit more successful than Wanderers.
It's the North Sydney Bears, basically. So Wanderers are fly-by-nighters. They're a recent addition to the sporting landscape in Australia.
I was thinking about them and their fall from grace and being so vocal and supportive early on and combative against Parramatta, but they're almost an afterthought now in the A-League.
Yeah. I don't think I don't know what their crowds have been outside of their traditional rivals, Sydney FC. I don't think they get great crowds outside of their local derby. So I think they just got beaten by Newcastle.
There's some crazy stuff happening in the A-League. I think the Mariners are in trouble as well. So but anyway, we don't have to worry about soccer or what have you. I know there's people who love their round ball game, the world game as they call it, but on the Australian landscape, it's really struggled to get a foothold. It does have passionate supporters that turn up live to watch them, but they have struggled to get an audience on broadcaster channels. So the local competition, that is. So anyway, we'll move on from that. Chris is not happy you leave the Wanderers alone. I'm sorry, mate, but they're just not doing too well. And there's a bit of a rivalry between the Wanderers fans and the Para fans going back to the new stadium. There was a bit of a one-sided hatred that came from them to us, which painted the what could have been a nice familial relationship into a bit of like, wait, what? But yeah, like I said, let's move on. But yeah, Bears logo, pretty generic, pretty safe. I saw in chat someone saying that it was about on par with the new Broncos logo. I thought, the new Broncos logo was very, what's the word? Like, not sanitized. It's like digitally sanitized. Like, it's like almost uncanny valley. It didn't feel right. I wasn't a big fan of it too, so I agree. But yeah, red and black hoops for the Bears. They've got a logo. They can start making kit, which means they're new player signings. And they still need that marquee signing. They can actually put them in some good apparel, hopefully, instead of just black polos.
Now, John, next bit of news, I'll let you say his name.
Oh, I hope AJ's still in chat so we can get picked on if we get it wrong. But a bit of a development for Mark Nwanganitawaze, who's secured a prospective new employer en route to the World Cup.
Yeah, off to Japanese rugby.
Yes.
And we're talking about $1 million deal.
Yeah, not bad money if you can get it. NRL, Zac Lomax, by the way. It's plenty of competitive offers out there if you want to go get him. But yeah, Mark, obviously with a rich history in rugby union, the flair in which he plays the game would be a great selling point to any prospective Japanese, European rugby club. And in this case, he secured a very good deal. Where is the actual article? It's here. Never heard the bloke, poor Roosters fans. Did someone post the article? Yeah, so 2-year deal worth more than $1 million a season with Div 1 Japanese rugby team. Do they name which club it is? But yeah, it keeps him on track for getting back into the World Cup because he'll have some union playing time under his belt. And there's a South African winger, Chelson Colbe, getting more than $1.8 million a season for the Tokyo Sun Goliath. God damn. Crazy money. So,
John, what astounds me is that the outside backs don't really get the same involvement in games in rugby union as what they do in rugby league.
No, you go from being a feature in league to playing 40 backs at times in union. Yeah, it's I don't know.
And I think he's really benefited from his first year with the Roosters because, if anything, his profile in Australian sport has grown through playing rugby league.
I would agree. Yeah,
and more people have been exposed to the talent that he has. People that would not have seen him do the things that he's done on a rugby league field if he was playing rugby union. And it's not that he wouldn't be able to do the same things in rugby union. He wouldn't get the same number of opportunities to do it. But it's just that there are more regular eyes on him on a weekly basis. And so for the 26 rounds in the year, or 27, whatever it is now, I keep losing track, but 24 games, he's doing his thing out there on the wing, and amazing, like last year, just doing some stuff which takes the breath away of neutral supporters, let alone Rooster supporters. You could not watch him and not be entertained.
If anything, the metagame in rugby league lends itself to his skill set even better because in union you don't get those opportunities to dive in the corner the way you do in league or compete for the high ball in the red zone. Like there are attacking kicks in union, but the crossfield kick is nowhere near as utilised in the 15-man code as it is in the 13-man code. And Mark, short restarts. In union, you do get the odd short restart, but it's usually a second rower field and not a winger. So you got to see the full utilisation of his talents. People in chat saying Mark to the Storm, $200,000 transfer fee, correct? Yep. That's the established trend now, or potentially the established trend. Well,
so, AJ, this sort of thing wouldn't happen to the Roosters where a club's going to stand over the Roosters.
Everyone cracks the Nick Politis jokes, but he has the sort of clout that the NRL would not try and pull, that sort of thing. And I understand that the code needs Melbourne or wants Melbourne to be strong in AFL heartland, and that's potentially being a factor here for what's transpiring behind the scenes. But yeah, Politis would not allow that to happen for the Roosters. He wields a lot of influence in that regard and would not let it happen. And I would love the Eels to have a Nick Politis of their own in that regard. Not so much to...
now this is, and without risking going back down the path that we were talking about before, this is where I applauded Jim Sarantinos for coming out and making the statements that he did, and that the club has no intention of backing down with in their circumstance. So this could be really a high watermark for the Eels in terms of the stand that they make.
Agreed. And like you said, Sarantino's is saying the right things and doing the right things. It's more that Politis just has the runs on the board, doesn't he, from doing this for decades, being such a sharp operator in that regard. And it's not even about exporting things for your benefit. It's not letting the league walk over you. And I think that, this is a big thing for the Eels. And Jim's doing the right things. He's saying the right things, doing the right things. And, it comes down to other factors now.
Yep. So, John, there was also an article about the coaches' hot seat.
Yeah,
who are the coaches that are rated as being in trouble or under pressure?
We love tier lists and we love grades in the modern media. And Daily Telegraph have pulled together their staff writers to rank all 17 head coaches ahead of the 2026 season. Who's on a hot seat, who's dead meat, as they put in the blurb for this one. We'll go through them alphabetically. Bulldogs, Cam Serrato, of course. Safety rating A+. I think that's pretty fair. He had a great year for the Bulldogs. Young coach, plenty of hype there as well. He'd have to have a pretty ordinary set of years to get the flick. Benji Marshall, an A+ at the West Tigers. That's not in alphabetical order, by the way. I don't really understand how we went.
I guess that's because he just signed that massive.
Oh no, we're going from A+ down. Okay, we'll go from the safest coaches to the most dangerous coaches there. So Benji Marshall A+, correct. He did sign the big extension. We were very surprised about that extension when it came out. Not to say that he couldn't have got an extension with a good season's results under his belt this year, but that felt like a real reactive move on the back of getting rid of Shane Richardson, and then the board saying, "Hey, look, we are committed to guys, so let's give Benji Marshall a 5-year deal." So that is an A+, I suppose. Kind of crazy that he gets an A+, but the reigning coach of the year, premiership coach of the year, Michael Maguire, gets an A, but they've rated him as an A. I mean, surely an A+. Surely an A+ for the reigning.
You would think.
Yeah, I mean, Madge does have some of that history to him about burning the teams out, but you come in, you win the premiership. Like, what more can you do as a first-year coach? We got Christian Wolf with an A. I thought that Wolf was pretty good in his debut year for the Dolphins. I think that's probably about right. I think he showed much to suggest that he shouldn't be given a fair chance there. Kyle Flanagan probably gets an A+. Shane Flanagan gets an A for job security, but Kyle's got an A+, by the way. Shane with an A there at the Dragons. Missed the 8. Got a big recruit in Keon Koloamatangi, though. So would you rate an A about right? You bumped down.
Look, I might put an A-.
A-
there, but that's then again. I'm judging it on my assessment of him as a coach, not his employer's assessment.
Yeah, exactly.
And that I guess would be, if I put myself in the shoes of his employers, I think they want to go down a path of giving a bloke who was a high-profile coach the best possible opportunity to succeed, and make sure that he's got a bit of security of tenure for a period of time. So,
There's a lot of A's. Oh, my God. There's a lot of safe coaches per the Daily Telegraph. Okay, so we've got a lot of A's to get through. Up next is Parramatta's own Jason Riles with a strong A next to his name.
That's an easy ranking.
Ranking, yeah. You can even bump it up to an A+, the way the club... If you speak to anyone that's at the club, the way they speak about Jason Riles, it is glowing. So, I think he's got a pretty secure future right now. Newcastle Knights, new coach, Justin Holbrook, they've given him an A. There is that always a new coach glow, isn't there, when you sort of get that first year. Although I do think the NRL is more reactive now. Like they're not going to just sit there and let you be a bad coach. I'm not saying Holbrook's going to stink it up, but if you have a bad first year, I feel like the pressure's on sooner than it is compared to recent years or recent.
I know
times.
Contracts don't mean anything, but how many years has he got to go?
Holbrook
as a new coach?
Was it a 4-year deal?
See, if it's a 4-year deal, he has to be an A.
Justin Holbrook, Newcastle deal. Go Google, do my work for me. 3-year deal. So
yeah, the chances of being sacked in his first year are
pretty unlikely. I mean, Newcastle don't have the sort of wiggle room too. They sort of have to stick it out with a coach and try and build with Dylan Brown there. and obviously Kalen Ponga. Penrith. How's Ivan Cleary an A, not an A plus? I suppose they're really weighing heavily on fat extensions that guys have got, but Ivan Cleary an A. I mean, that's no data, isn't it? Like
he should be an A plus.
A plus, yeah. He's an institution out there at Penrith. Wayne Bennett at the Rabbitohs an A. See, I would argue that Wayne's reputation gives him an A, but the issues they've had on and off the field, maybe you should bump him down a little bit. Like you're not going to get rid of the super coach.
It's more likely that equal.
Yeah, true. That could also reflect in the coaching seat, I suppose. Raiders, Ricky Stewart, minor premiers, but bounced out of the finals in straight sets. An A. That's an A plus. Ricky Stewart has legitimate tenure at Canberra, like on the back of a great season. Even with getting bumped out of the finals in straight sets, he's had worse. Like obviously he's been in and out of the 8 across his time there, but it's Ricky Stewart. He'll walk away from the Raiders when he wants to, not the other way around. So that's an A plus. I've got AJ saying Trent Robinson a B plus, which is not too far off the Daily Telegraph. They said an A for Trent. Yeah, I mean, I know that there's been some criticism leveled at Robinson. People saying that he's had stacked rosters and whatnot, but the reality is he's won multiple premierships with the Roosters. And
I'd go A minus, John.
A minus. So you're sort of in the same. You're splitting the Daily Telegraph and AJ there. I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
Somewhere between A and a B plus, like depending on where you sort of oscillate with expectations. It'd be very unlikely to see him getting the plug pulled on him. We get more A's. So go down to the Sharks, Craig Fitzgibbon, maiden finals win. Is that enough to keep him up at an A? Would you bump him down into the B's?
Yeah.
You think it's enough? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that without the finals win, he was pretty firmly in the B's. I mean, the pressure would have been on him to get a result.
But this is their likelihood of holding on to being coached this year, isn't it? Rather than a ranking of the coach.
Yeah, like how likely they are to be moved on from, yes. But if Cronulla had gone out in straight sets again in the finals, I think that at the end of 26, there would have been a pretty frank conversation being held, pending results.
I think in terms of coaching performance, I'd have him at a B plus. In terms of his likelihood of holding on to his job, he's an A to an A plus.
Interesting. I would have had him down a little bit lower than that. I just feel that the choker tag that had been following Cronulla for a few years now would have been too sharp. But he did get the win. I think that probably puts him A minus thereabouts in mine in terms of security. Josh Hannay, another new face on the Titans, only an A for job security. But yeah, I think that's pretty safe there. I'd be stunned if something happened to Josh for a couple of years. Down to the Melbourne Storm, a B for Craig Bellamy, putting the B in Bellamy just there. Now, that would be more to do with the man himself, wouldn't it, rather than the Melbourne Storm?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
That's Brent Reid with the rating there as well. So, yeah, I kind of get behind that because we mentioned it earlier in the podcast when we were ranting about Zac Lomax and the situation. Bellamy's been flirting on again, off again with walking away. And it looked like he was done a couple of years ago, and then he sort of come back, got that the coach's itch, can I coach for more years? Yeah. But yeah, put him in a B. Webster from the Warriors for B. David Riccio. I don't know about that. I would have had him in the higher. I mean, he's done great things for the Warriors relative to injuries and whatnot. I'd be shocked if the Warriors.
Lowest to be a B plus.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if the Warriors moved on from Webster. He's installed a far more gritty and competitive culture in the Warriors than they've had for years. He's extracted some great value out of journeyman. Not even like Metcalf was not a journeyman, but he was a player that's been banged up and hadn't realised his full potential, and they got him into the front runner for Dally M medal. So yeah, it's a little bit low. Then we see a steep drop off. So we've got all A's and B's, and then the last two, these are the guys that maybe it's not even a hot seat, maybe it is dead meat. And it's Todd Payton at the Cowboys with an E. And he's not the only one with an E because he's joined by the Manly coach there, and Anthony Seibold, who also has an E rating. Oof. I mean, Seibold, these being the two coaches the most conjecture about their future for a while, right? And there was speculation that Manly would be moving on from Seibold after the DCE saga. But instead, they came to an accord on another year, or playing out the contract with Seibold for 26. And with the Cowboys, we've talked about it. I imagine a lot of podcasts talked about it. One of the more talented rosters in the competition. They had that 1 year alongside Parramatta in 22 where they looked like they were going to be set to compete for the next half a decade, and instead they've fallen off. And they've been flirting. They've sort of been flirting at the edge of the 8 for the last couple of years. They've had a number of genuine superstar players develop in their roster, but maybe not max out their potential. Tom Dearden's sort of broken out as one of the upcoming representative stalwarts in the playmaking positions, but it has not translated the consistent success for the Cowboys. So, yeah, that's a hot seat up there in Townsville. And they've gone out and signed Reed Marnie, so they've got a pretty high-profile recruitment to replace Robson, who's going to AJ's boys there. That's a big pickup for the Roosters, by the way. But I don't know, is it enough? And Peyton sort of, again, we're looking from the outside in, but he doesn't do himself any favours. He's sort of, the way he projects himself with a grating personality. I don't know how he is behind closed doors. He could be a fantastic bloke, but I don't know. He hasn't helped his public persona, it feels like. Yeah.
No, I'd agree. So that's almost like saying that they are odds on to be replaced this year.
Yes, they'd be almost unbackable. An E rating when everyone else is at A and B, so he just skipped C and D. That's rough. But Michael said that Andy Raymond had a response to this one. Let me know. I'm going to see what Andy's was, because he's got some. He's sort of in the IDGAF category these days when it comes to the media. He doesn't hold back, so he might have said something real spicy. I'll be waiting to see what Michael says. Andy said, but yeah, that's the DT's take. It was deleted very soon after. I imagine there was some colourful language used then. But yeah, I love Andy Raymond. Always got a soft spot for him. He was dealt a pretty shitty hand when it came to getting kicked out of Fox. So he's doing good things though. So he's still falling on his feet. But yeah, that's the DT's take on coaching security, mate. And yeah, a lot of A's, a lot of B's. There's always coaching too, mate. They're in the NFL right now, I think there's 32 teams in the NFL. There are 10 vacancies in head coaches, and it's like just a calculable amount of churn right now. I think the NRL will have churn this year, going into next year, and maybe more than just the Cowboys and the Seagulls. It just there always is.
Well, what would be your tip? Where's there going to be a change?
So I like the Warriors. I think the Sharks are a sneaky one. I still think, not the Raiders, Rabbitohs maybe. Can't be the Knights. Probably not the Dragons.
Bellamy walking away. Yeah, like there's just a few things there. I don't think Benji's that secure. Like, they gave him the extension. If they fall through the floor this year, the only thing stopping them from, like, that would really inhibit their ability to walk away from him would be balking at the payout. But if the Tigers fall off the wagon this year, I don't think Benji's contract protects him that much. Oh, look, I would have said he was a chance of being moved on until they extended him.
I thought it was firmly in that category.
Boy, they painted themselves into it.
Yeah, it was such a reactionary move, which is why I think they might get a bit of buyer's remorse if it does happen that way. And I wonder if there are some sort of, like, levers they can pull contract-wise, clause-wise, that they might be able to bail them out. But yeah, just there's always a bit more churn than you think when it comes to this stuff. On that note, Joel asked us, and Knight Warren, good to have you there, mate. He's gone away for the remainder of the podcast now, so we'll catch him next episode. Joel asked us who are our picks for the wooden spoon, which probably falls in line with who's on a hot seat. Spoon's always an interesting one to project because there's always a team you don't know will be in the mix, and there always are a couple of guys you pretty can rightly count on. This year,
can I give him a 27 prediction?
20 and 28 prediction. 28 could be real spicy between PNG and the Bears. So wooden spoon. Where are we here? The Newcastle Knights reigning spooners. New coach, but Holbrook is a non-entity too. Struggled at the Titans. I don't think it's unfair to suggest Newcastle could be down there. Titans barely. It was a pretty big for and against difference in the end. Over 100 points of for and against, but they were right there for Newcastle. They've got a new coach. Big clean out the roster. Can Hannay find the same sort of energy that Jason Riles did for Parramatta? It's a tough question. I think the Dragons will trend upwards, Craig. I think Flanagan for another year there. They've got some good young forwards in place there. They also got they do fix up their halves a little bit because they've got what's his name from Cronulla, who they signed 1 million years ago, but he's finally getting there. Atkinson, I think it is. He'll help with their halves a little bit. So I think that they probably are secure. I don't think South Sydney should be written off for the wooden spoon. If they get more injuries, their roster's a year older. Cody Walker's been held together by duct tape and Band-Aids. Latrell Mitchell out in the centres. I think that Souths, I think Wests, Cowboys, Manly. I think these are like I'm not saying any of them are favourites, but I think these are the ones you're sort of looking at when you're framing the market. I like most of the incumbent top 8. I think Canberra are going to drop. I think they had an outlier year in terms of their overall success, but they're still going to be a good team. Melbourne, they could drop a little bit. They've taken a hit this year, but they're not going to drop a long way. I mean, the Bulldogs could normalise a little bit too, but again, that's still a top 8 contender. The Broncos are going to be right up there. Sharks have shown that they're very consistent in the regular season. Warriors will get Metcalf back, knock on wood. So I think that they'll be, again, a top 8 contender. Penrith, Roosters, AJ's boys there. The Dolphins, Parramatta. I think they're the teams you're sort of looking at when you're framing the top 8, and the rest of the teams are what you're looking at when you're framing the initial spoon market. Gun to head. If they keep getting injured, I think the Rabbitohs will really struggle, Craig. But Newcastle, again, are proven losers right now. So, I don't know. What's your feel?
I'm gonna maybe suggest the Cowboys or the Knights. They're my two. So the Knights, not a tough choice, although you would think surely Dylan Brown makes them a bit more competitive, maybe better defensively. But I can't help but thinking that the Cowboys' marriage with Todd Payton is on rocky ground, and I just have the feeling there was a bit of tension between him and the players last year.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Cool.
But would they move on from him and then maybe get that second wind? I don't know. But yeah, I think the Cowboys are definitely up there. But I rate a couple of their players really highly. So I do feel like they might be able to dig themselves out of that hole enough. Dearden is a cracking young player. I think that he's a real star in the game. And I think that maybe kind of like with Mitchell Moses, where obviously Mitch has got more experience, more tools in the kit to draw upon in that regard. But I think Dearden sort of maybe just keeps him away from the spoon enough.
Yeah, but it might only take an injury or two.
Yeah, well, if Dearden, if you rate him so highly and then he gets injured, then yes, that definitely changes the equation back that way. It's a tough market for the spoon. I was just looking at it there. Maybe even tougher to frame the market of the spoon than for the top 8. Like there's a lot of decent teams, a lot of good teams, but then there's a lot of those teams that could be, are they going to be up here and be a fringe, 8 to 12 team, or are they going to be 13 to 17 team? I don't know. A lot of new coaches.
I think, as I said, I think injury is going to play a big role in determining. It always plays a role in determining the top 8. I think it'll play a really strong role in determining the wooden spoon. John, can we finish now with? We just want to touch on it briefly. It's just a revelation that James Graham made with regard to mental health, and just, I guess, from the point of view of praising him for brutal honesty about himself.
Pretty on brand for him, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't really, want to dive into the ins and outs of the struggles, but just to say that the more that you get, fairly strong male role models being prepared to say,
yeah,
look, I needed help, then you've got even if that impacts just one person who might not have come forward and asked for help, then that's that's still making a difference.
Yeah, something really positive is being paid forward. Exactly. So
yeah. So that's really all I wanted to say on that matter, because everyone has their own levels of.
Jamie's spot on. Jammer is a good lad when he's not talking about the Dogs. 100%. He actually offers some fantastic rugby league insight, although he gets a little bit biased when he talks about the Bulldogs. But he's Neil's saying the same thing. Jimmy does a good podcast, but just skip when he talks about the Dogs, Dragons, St. Helens, or England. Yeah, I respect that energy. He is a fantastic rugby league source of insight, and obviously this is a very candid thing he's sharing with the wider world here, which is again for a greater cause here, like you said, Craig, and helping just one person. But yeah, don't let him talk about the Bulldogs and co. But I got plenty of time for James Graham. Was an awesome player. Has turned into a pretty good media pundit in a sea of mediocrity when it comes to rugby league coverage. Jimmy does a lot of good things, but yeah, it's a little bit biased when it comes to Canterbury.
Okay, so that just about wraps things up. John, have we got any final comments or questions from chat?
What do we got here? Joel was asking just about where we see the Warriors of a for sure top 8 contender. I said I think they're going to be a contender. I don't think they're a lock for the 8. I think that they're going to be competing. And again, they're a team that's going to be very contingent on staying healthy in key positions. They lost a lot of impetus when Metcalf went down last year. Ron saying that Manly is his Smoky for the spoon. It's a great backline, but average forwards and halves. We didn't even talk about the loss of DCE. So yeah, Manly, they've got the barbecue man out there, the Weber. What's his name? Former West Tigers player. With the 5'8", what's his name? God. What was Mitchell Moses' running mate's name? I'm having an absolute blank here. You're not helping me either. Who was Daly Cherryman's half partner this year or last year? I can see him. The farm
in the back. Brooks.
Luke Brooks, yeah. So they got Luke Brooks, yeah. Thank you, Josh. Luke Brooks anchoring their playmaking core right now. It's rough. The fun, yeah. And they did get Jamal Fogarty, but Jamal had a couple of decent years for Canberra. I don't know. The Canberra team, pound for pound, is a lot better than Manly, by the way. Like, Ricky's actually built a pretty good roster there. They've got a really solid back line, really good forward pack. So I think Manly, not a bad one. Gallagher offering, saying he's got a potential resolution on the Lomax situation. Oh, wait, no, is that in a vacuum something different? He's saying Madison swapped for Bloor at Melbourne. I mean, I'd take that. I don't rate Sean Bloor super highly, but he's a decent first grader. And surely on a better contract than Madison. But that's, I suppose, a separate matter to Lomax there. Gallagher saying not as bad as Nas to talk about the Dogs and Roosters. Not wrong. Brafe doesn't mind getting into a bit of a slobber job over those former clubs there for him. What else we got here? Jeddah. Jeddah, I'm sorry to hear that, mate. And that's why the James Graham thing was very important. Every person that gets saved because someone comes forward and has a positive confrontation with mental health is, another battle won in the war for mental health in general. So, sorry to hear that, mate.
I got a message, John. Yoko's messaged me multiple times. Stop playing with your tooth.
Just kidding.
If she knew what I'm dealing with it, it's literally. I don't want it to come out during the podcast. I'm trying to hold it in place at the moment. I feel like ducking up to the side, grabbing it, ripping it out, but then I don't know how much blood's going to come my way. I'm waiting. I'm actually hanging out now till the end of the podcast.
Oh, yeah, Joey.
So, let's get through this.
Very quickly, former Eels dummy half Joey Lussick announced his retirement from competitive football. Well done to Joey.
Yes.
Did some great things for Parramatta across a few seasons. And I tell you what, if he was there in 2021, right, or 2020, for the COVID finals, would have been a very different outcome against Penrith. But we didn't have him on the books that year. Josh says he'd take a pack of pre-chewed gum for Madison. Okay, that's probably not unfair, mate. Probably not unfair. Joel saying he give Lomax the Storm if they take Madison too. Madison's the worst re-signing extension in recent memory. Yeah, look, that deal didn't work out with the benefit of hindsight, Gallagher. There is obviously some nuance to why the Eels re-signed him at the time, having lost a couple of players, and then sort of the Dolphins' interest in Madison. He was coming off his best year, 21 was there. If you get the two fairy money, mate, could be a monster. But yeah, Madison deal, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, has not worked out for Parramatta. But them's the breaks, isn't it? Sometimes it doesn't play out that way.
John,
Scott,
I could get rid of our audience by lifting the lip up and showing
the hair gum. Yeah. Not a hair lip, it's a hair gum.
Unaware, I completely snapped through the canine tooth, so it's actually separated from the tooth and it's just hanging on by gum. So I'm due for surgery on Friday for the rest of it to be. For it to be taken out and then dug out. So, yes, the tooth fairy, I'll put it there, and hopefully it might be an equivalent to the money that the Storm have offered the Eels as compensation for Lomax.
And it looks like there's no breaking news, so we can count on the Wednesday news coming to ruin our podcast. But yeah, on that note, we're going to get more reports from Lennox Head as the Eels continue their training camp. Oh, there was a question in chat. Sorry, I missed it for a couple of people. I don't know if you guys are still here, but there were a couple of questions about if you're in the vicinity of Lennox Head, what's the best way to find out about training times? Is there any way to?
Look, I can tell you it's probably fitting in with Eels training times at the moment. Your best shot would be going there Thursday at 9:30.
Thursday 9:30. I know there's a couple of guys asking the questions. If you guys are still here, that's what Craig is saying is your best bet, because there is they've obviously got an official schedule internally, but there is nothing telegraphed about it to outsiders, including Craig. He's rocked up at 9:30 only to find out that the training started at 7:30 at times, and he's missed the vast majority of the session. Penasini resigning news, not my end, Jamie. I don't know if you've heard, Craig.
I believe he did actually extend last year.
So when he announced it, because Will Penasini said it in the press conference, this was like literally from the horse's mouth. So yeah, for whatever reason, just hasn't been not even officially ratified. It's ratified, just hasn't been announced. So there you go. So let's operate on that, and we can keep running with the Penasini meme, I suppose, until we get the official announcement. But it does look like he has extended beyond what the portal says.
And John, let me just finish off. I've had this sent to me by multiple people, just with regard to how people feel that Parramatta's been treated over the years. So 2009, Para lose the grand final to a team cheating the cap. 2013, as you said before, the Israel Folau being blocked to join Parramatta. 2016, we get points stripped due to salary cap breaches. The Sharks miraculously were above the cap, except on grand final day. They just end up with a fine when they actually won the title. 2020, of course, Michael Jennings is suspended for that drugs breach on the actual day of the final, not a few days before, not after, but on the actual day of the final. 2022, Taylor May has his suspension deferred. So he can play.
It's what the fans wanted. It's what the fans wanted. Oh, my God.
And now we have this current situation. So a lot of Parramatta fans, like judging from I know it would have been put together by someone out there on the internet. I think I did see the original, but a lot of people have been texting and messaging that rundown to me. You touched on a couple of things earlier, John. There really is an animosity out there about decisions that
I'll tell you what. Since we're talking about what's good for the game and what's good for these clubs, NRL can have Zac Lomax. I suppose it's NRL. Melbourne will have Zac Lomax. But I'll tell you what, Tino Fasul Malawi would be pretty good for the game. He went to Parramatta. Be pretty good. Just saying for the health of the game. Maybe he should come to Parramatta for a notional transfer fee. Like if you want to play those stupid games, that's where we end up, right? And Eels got Keon Cologne with Tungy money sitting there, so we can get him. So that's what.
Because the thing is, and this is the thing, and we may as well end it on this sort of note in having a final say on this. And I think you touched on it really earlier, John, is that clubs knew what the agreement was with Zac Lomax. There'd been no approaches really from other clubs. But all of a sudden the Storm are like, well, this shouldn't apply to us. You're assuming that that's the thought. Now, whether it's Lomax and his management approaching them or them approaching Lomax, whatever it is, they've been the club that have decided, well, this contract shouldn't apply to Zac Lomax.
Mm-hmm.
Just let that sink in for a moment.
Yep. So again, why should we honour Tino's contract? Why should we honour Payne Haas's contract? Why should we honour any star's contract? We should just go sign a player. Just go ignore all regulations and rules and all conventional theory when it comes to workplace employment and honouring contracts. We want this player. We want that player. So this is a real line in the sand moment for the code, not just for Parramatta. And again, I think it is telling that if it's not a unified front, it would be just Melbourne against it. That all the club CEOs, per that report came out last week, are behind Parramatta here because this is important. If we're not going to honour this, then what are we going to honour? And this is really this has been the culmination of a lot of player contracts. And look, the Eels have benefited from players watching on contracts. Don't get me wrong, but this is a bit unique in that he was given an explicit release to pursue the opportunity. He got what he wanted. But the pot of gold wasn't at the end of the rainbow. And now he's come back saying, well, I don't want that anymore. I want this. So, there's a bit to play out here.
So, thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight. We know it's been a full 2 hours that we've gone through. We certainly spent a lot of time talking about the Storm Lomax saga that's going on at the moment, the PVL intervention that looks like it's going to happen. Certainly a lot that we wanted to get off our chest. So thank you for being with us. Thanks to everyone in chat who put forward their opinions, which adds to the podcast. It gives us those either contrasting or different opinions that we can be able to share, not only for John and I to consider, but also to throw it out to the others that are listening, whether it be live or in delay. So I really appreciate that. Stand by for some podcasts that we're going through recording this week. So we'll just have an interesting run of podcasts that we're putting together. Thank you to our sponsors, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan and Parramatta, and of course the home of the Eels, Parramatta Leagues Club. Don't forget, look for the information about those proposed changes to the Constitution. Vote no to those proposed changes. They want to take us back to dark
thumbs
ages.
Down for that, but a thumbs up for voting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and of course, don't forget Paradise Cafe in there inside the Eels Centre of Excellence. Great place to, if you live up in the Hills District, to go there and enjoy a coffee, a cold drink, whatever the case may be. And if you like to go and watch the Eels train, you've got their wonderful balcony there outside the cafe that you can watch the Eels train. John, thank you for another fine podcast from your end. And as I always say, go you mighty Eels.
Yes, sir. Catch you guys later. Okay. Wait, that too far.
It's got, look.